IVM.
Hey, so what do you think Jishnu, Dinkar and I have in common? Well, it's all that we are solid underachievers. But if you like the opposite, which is that of a superachiever, then you should definitely check out the Vishal Gondal Show, where Vishal, the host who I just named and is also in the title of the show, The Vishal Gondal Show, interviews superachievers like Ronnie Screwwala, a great superachiever, Amish Tripathi, another great superachiever. So, if you're an achiever and would like to become a superachiever, then you should probably check out The Vishal Gondal Show. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Geek Podcast. My name is Tejas, and I have Jishnu here in the studio.
Hello.
We're in a new setting for the second time in the Geek Podcast history. Actually, that's not true.
No.
We started off this podcast in Famous Studio, then we are at IVM most of the time.
See what I did?
No, I didn't understand why though. And now here we are in a remote piece almost. It's not really.
Famous had a sequel.
Did it?
Small Famous, Big Famous.
Small Famous, Big Famous. Then IVM, obviously, home of the Heart of the Dragon. And that's an Iron Fist reference. I just finished it.
Why?
and now we are at Island City Studios recording episode 4, Ghoul.
Yep.
The Netflix scary thing.
But wait, you actually saw all of Iron Fist in one sitting.
Not one
I
sitting.
mean, in one day?
3.5 sittings.
How many days?
Like over since it came out till now.
Which was like, 3 days ago?
No, it came out on the 7th.
Not long ago.
Today's
the 12th.
Yeah, so I finished it.
In 5 days.
So
wow.
This is all I can say about that before we get into Ghoul, which is what today's topic is. Iron Fist is inexplicable.
Say no more. No, I will see it. I'm
not talking about Iron Fist, the story.
After you guys' glowing recommendation of Luke Cage, I didn't listen to the episode.
Okay, yeah. So
I have not heard the episode. Say no more.
Okay, no, I'll just say what I said.
Season.
So Dinkar and I finished off by saying Luke Cage has the most bizarre ending of all time. He said that on the Nerdtorium episode
exactly.
also.
So
Iron Fist wins.
I'm convinced.
With even more of a bizarre ending. Cool.
I will see it.
That's
just know that I'm gonna
and
probably
now I can
crawl
do
my way
JJ because I wanted to focus on JJ because it's a good show. It's a little darker, and these ones.
Oh
are
yeah,
just
you haven't seen season 2.
No,
right?
I'm not seeing it. So it's good. Now I'm ready for it. So let us move on swiftly from Iron Fist to something closer to home, which is Ghoul. So what is your what is? I don't know. We're not going to spoil it.
Not just yet.
Not yet.
We will.
Let us spoil it because it's only 3 episodes.
Right.
Okay, and now this is fresh off the runway success of Sacred Games, produced by the same man, Vikramaditya Motwani, who's been having glowing reviews from us. That's another Iron Fist reference, Jishnu.
Let's move on.
He's our golden boy because he did Bhavesh Joshi, a movie that we really like. He did Sacred Games, something that Dinkar saw and I saw a little bit of, and I thought that was really good. And now we move on to what he's executively produced, which is Ghoul, written and directed by Patrick Graham. Do you remember this guy?
No, I looked him up. I don't recognize.
I will tell you. Did you ever watch the show Bring on the Night?
No.
Okay, cool. So he was like a principal cast member in that. Like he was one of the main characters in that.
Oh.
Yeah. He was the white guy. I mean, like, yeah, he's like, he reminds me a lot of my flatmate Abhimanyu in many ways because he's like, I don't know if he's like half Indian or whatever it is, but like, he's a guy, I think he grew up in the UK and, he's come and he's been here for a long time.
Okay.
And, the last I heard of him was on Bring on the Night and now he's directing and writing, the latest kind of, Netflix thing, starring none other than Radhika Apte, or as my friend Meghna Bogle says, Radhika Omnipresente. But the best Twitter joke was Netflix as Radhika Apte.
Just Netflix presents.
Yeah, because she's in everything. So that's
did you like this genre just in general?
You're
much bigger fan of this kind of stuff than I am.
I love horror. Why do I like horror?
I wouldn't count this as horror.
It's not horror.
Because even for me, like I'm a wuss. I don't particularly enjoy horror. That being said, like we all know, I've seen all of Paranormal Activity and all of
Saw. So you.
But the thing is, those are funny. And this
is a serious attempt at horror.
Well, that's the thing.
No, it's a serious attempt. We won't take that away
exactly.
from that.
I can't deny that the opening 15 minutes of this first episode.
Right.
Well, it's like, okay, this could, I'm slowly, I'm clenching my chair a little tighter than I thought I would be.
Yeah.
And then the 15 minutes ended, and then I let go of said chair. And I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
I think I get where this is going.
I agree.
But I will say, we'll get into details in a bit, but my overall thoughts was that...
Did you like it?
Good effort. Good effort.
Yeah.
That's about it.
I'll also say it.
I'll say good effort.
I will say
and
good effort.
The cast did a pretty damn good job.
I really thought
considering the circumstances and everything of what the situation was. I was like, this was not badly attempted overall. The acting was pretty solid all the way around. But then halfway through, I found myself thinking a rather odd thought. I was like, I would much rather see this on a stage.
Oh,
because
interesting.
It functions, like as just one piece, right?
Yeah, it's like a,
it's a perfectly linear timeline, very little time jumps.
Yeah, very few.
And it's all within one enclosed area. So 3 things came to mind very quickly, which stuck with me throughout all 3 episodes. One was that I think this would work really well as a stage play.
Okay.
2, I thought that the episodic breakup was to its detriment. Because the episodes themselves
that's what I was gonna say.
Didn't have strong enough arcs to satisfy being an episode. Because if it
feel
was
like,
one movie, then I'd be far more into it. Because as the episodes ended and then the next episode picked up, the pacing just was completely bonkers. Like it didn't flow like episodes.
Didn't it feel like a long movie that's just been cut into 3 parts?
Literally that.
So now I watched an interview with I think the Quint did an interview with Patrick Graham, the director, and Vikramaditya Motwani, right? And in that, she also asked the question, it's like, well, wasn't this pitched as a movie? And then Netflix decided to kind of do it as a series. And I was just like, even, prior to me even knowing about how long Ghoul was or what it was, etc., I always thought, oh, cool, this is a new Netflix series. It's going to have 13 episodes like everything else does. But I was just like shocked to see that it was like just 3 episodes because, it was daunting, right? Because we had to do this episode. I was like, okay, cool, we're going to have to do a binge. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. It's only 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So I pretty much watched it in one stretch, with 6 hours of sleep in between the second and the third episode. Yeah. So
I saw 3 isolated episodes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I saw the first 2 together, and then I was just like, okay, cool, I need to crash right now. It's 3 in the morning. I can't do this. I need to finish Iron Fist. That's what I have to do.
I don't understand you.
But anyway, so I ended up doing that, and I just felt like, why is this exactly a
really
series?
Anyway, doesn't need to
besides the point, you can watch it, for those who haven't seen it, you can watch it in one go, and I recommend that you watch it in one go to get like a full experience. In fact, there should be a way, like, I don't know how many series have done this, but like, like when Rebels came out, the last 2 episodes are always 2 back-to-back episodes, but they just kind of seamlessly kind of make them one episode. Yeah. And then, for whatever rebroadcast, they kind of snip them into 2 parts. They should have an option, which is like how they have skip intro, which they should have just like skip in between breaks and just like watch it as one go.
It's a 5-second break, but I think more than anything else, more than the actual time in between episodes, which is now like anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds depending on your internet connection.
Right.
It's more of the fact that the episodes end with like that swell of music and epic. What's the cheeseball line that ended the second one? Let the games begin.
Yeah, something
just like, come on, you don't need to do that.
You didn't need to. Yeah.
I was intrigued, but what was that big guy's name? Something
Faulad Singh.
Faulad Singh. So I was just like, that's a hilarious name. Let's see what this guy's all about. Oh, great, it's the great Kali from WWE.
Is it? 1 second.
No, it's not, but it's basically, I mean, it's default Kali. Like, it's a B-grade Kali.
Yeah.
So the guy comes in, and I was like, okay, this could go in a number of ways. It went exactly the way we thought it was going to go, right? I mean, you saw that coming.
Yeah, of course.
But the impact was diminished by the fact that they built it up with "Let the games begin."
So,
I was like,
and it's
all right,
so funny.
show me these games. Then
you have to kind of consider that this is just a ghoul who's speaking to himself.
Yeah, seriously. Like, I mean, the reason that I said the first 15 minutes were better than most of it was because it was the not knowing that did it for me. Like, the minute they showed the ghoul, or showed, the eyes and the teeth and all that. I was like, wow, that was really quick.
Okay,
so now it's a monster movie. It's
let's
no
just
longer
break this down. Let's just break this down. Do you think this is a serious attempt at proper mainstream horror film, which is then, whatever, by all intents and purposes, broken up in 3 parts? Or is this like supposed to be like a kind of like a big grade horror film? When I say that, I don't mean any disrespect to what the attempt is.
I
mean, but like, like a Sam Raimi kind of Evil Dead kind of thing.
I would put it more like Predator. Because by the end of it, by the 3rd episode, once people are kicking ass and taking names and like she's beheading people and shotgunning somebody in the face and stuff like that, like her character is pretty freaking badass by
She's
the end
good.
of it.
Yeah, she's cool.
So she kind of takes on, what's her name? She kind of takes on like a Sigourney Weaver kind of role.
Exactly. So
And
now
once
this is what I
the
wanted
middle
to
of the
say.
second episode begins, or once we get to the middle of the second episode and we see the ghoul and we
Yeah.
realize, oh, this guy's like a shape-shifting dude, it's no longer scary because there's no more mystery. It's just the only mystery is like, okay,
Where's
whose
it gonna
body
come?
he's going to
Yeah,
be in
exactly.
next. And then there's a
Dude,
jump scare here and
I had
there. but
only
it's-
two things in my head when I saw this entire series, right?
What?
The first is that it reminded me, the setup reminded me a lot of like V for Vendetta, which was like the fact that, it was nice to role reversal of the fact that, it's an authoritarian state. I actually thought the setup of this story was interesting.
Exactly. They
It's
lost
really
the plot a
interesting.
little bit. They
Yeah.
started with this kind of cool dystopian thingy.
Exactly, yeah.
And I kind of enjoyed that I couldn't tell what year we were in.
Yeah,
using
because
like
the old cell phones?
Old cell phone, cassette tapes.
Cassette
but then
tapes,
I think I
yeah.
saw a date on like the cassettes at the end when the guy tells him to go to the tapes
Right.
closet and pick out the one that we need of her dad.
Yeah.
I think it's at 2019. I could be
Okay,
wrong.
maybe.
But either which way.
I really like that.
The
It felt
setup-
like Gotham, like
Yeah.
that weird kind of
Yeah.
unplaceable timeline.
So the setup was great, but then we kind of lost all scope of that whole bigger picture of
Right.
like national
Right.
terrorism and all that.
kinda-
And then it became a
yeah.
monster movie. And then at the very end, like, by the way, remember at the thing at the beginning, we
This
said
whole
this was about
religious
terrorism?
divide that's
yeah, So I
happening?
was like, yeah.
So
you lost me
it was a
then. You
bit
can't-
of like, there's a whole 1984 thing happening. There's a whole, what do you call it? The other thing that completely reminded me of, and I swear, I wish we could have a conversation with Patrick Graham about this, but I don't know, it reminded me a lot of Alien 3. I don't know if you've seen Alien 3. Okay,
no.
so Alien 1 is basically the survivor kind of horror film, right? Like, which is a Sigourney Weaver against this one thing on board this one ship, right? Everybody else is dead, blah, blah, blah. The second movie is the action film, which is the James Cameron one, where they're just shooting, they have lots of artillery and blah. The third one is set in a prison. Okay, and it's the really kind of dark, kind of really grim, kind of, because they don't have any weapons and they're just like all prisoners who have their own agendas against like this alien that is like all the aliens that are just there to kill them. So it's really like bleak. It's super bleak. That's what this reminded me most of. That the setting was provided. I felt like to kind of just to kind of reiterate it, it's basically, it's set in this kind of weird timeline, alternate future where there's this whole authoritarian state and they're destroying like textbooks and, children's books, anything that kind of goes against what the government's kind of propaganda is or what their agenda is. And basically, like, there's a nice little role reversal where, the young people are the ones who are kind of, subordinate to the state's agenda, and the older people kind of believe in a freedom and a liberalism that doesn't exist anymore in India. So it was kind of cool. And the setup is that this girl, Nida, whose father is kind of like this, he's a lecturer or some sort. And, she kind of, she outs him as this, revolutionary guy, to the state, and they have like this, these cells basically who are supposed to kind of interrogate these people and recondition them, air quotes, and send them what they just term as vapsi. I was like, that's cool. All right, so they want to vapsi him back to his earlier self and make him, recondition him from his brainwashing.
D Winter Soldier.
Yeah, D Winter Soldier.
Summer Soldier.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
Summer Solstice.
And somersaulting. So anyway, basically they wanna she outs her father as this guy, and she kind of has some kind of remorse buried in her. Now here's the thing. Okay, and we'll get to this after the break maybe, but so she gives him up and stuff, and this is months later. She's been called in because this main terrorist, who's deemed to be uncatchable, has suddenly fallen into the hands of, Indian soldiers, and now he's in the cell, and she's been asked to interrogate him for some reason. And she's like a newbie. She's like a recruit, and she doesn't really know why, but they give her some reason saying, oh, that you're top of your class, blah, blah, blah. And then boom, that's it. And so she's there in this really Aliens 3 kind of detention facility for these prisoners. So there's a lot of things going on. There's one which is this whole authoritarian state. Nobody wants any other thing. There's also a big religious divide, and they're saying basically it's like it's what America is right now, which is like Islam is like
I think the bottom line is it took on way too much than it could chew.
Yes, it's a very lofty, ambitious kind of thing. I'm never against that, honestly. I'm cool with it as long as you can try. I like the reach, right? Like but this like you said, this movie kind of I'm gonna call it a movie. Just say what it is.
Sure.
This thing kind of goes into different genres. It tries to take on too much and doesn't service enough.
Yeah.
And I think that was the flaw for it.
Yeah.
Apart from one other flaw, which is that there are a round total of 2 scares in the whole thing for me. Did you get scared at all, by the way? Were you haunted?
No, God, no.
So I watched this with my girlfriend, and she doesn't like horror films at all. But I told her, I was like, and this is what happens when we have to do these binges, and I don't want to do them. I was like, okay, cool, we're doing this, we have to watch this. She's like, no, okay, cool. And she doesn't like horror films. So I felt the fear through her vicariously.
Yeah.
Like,
Which 2 scares?
So I think there was one shot where basically Faulad Singh, our favorite, he says, "Unchain me," okay, "Unchain me," and the kind of camera pans. It was like a smartly,
He
definitely,
says "Unchain me"?
Yeah, the Syed Ali. The main terrorist.
Oh, the main terrorist.
Yeah, he says, "Unchain me, please," and all that stuff. He's bleeding because he's
yep.
been beaten up by this guy. And then it kind of pans, like there's a little like tilt,
Yeah.
and it goes up, and when it comes back down, his face is of the ghoul.
Right.
I thought that was neat. Okay,
sure.
But the big flaw for me is that, okay, so 2 flaws if we want to distill it, and then we'll get into the story in the next, after the break.
Yeah.
But the 2 big flaws for me, one is it takes on too much, doesn't deliver. Second thing is it's not that scary, and the graphics aren't great.
Yeah.
In the limited use of graphics, I feel like they shouldn't have, right? Like you said.
I know what you mean, yes.
When the mystery is there,
but
it's scarier.
I
When you
wasn't
don't
too
know who it is,
invested in
it's
the
scarier. Right. But otherwise, when it's there, it's serviceable. It's kind of like, it doesn't bother me, but like if I think about it.
It didn't bug me. If I think about it, I'm like, yeah, sure, maybe it wasn't like the best I'd ever seen, but then again, it didn't bug me.
Yeah, it didn't bug me either. I mean, it's just like when I saw it, I was like, well, if you're gonna show something, like even it's like the hands, right, the claws and stuff, I'm just like, maybe you could do that. Anyway, we'll take a break. We'll get into the story like full on and try and deconstruct Ghoul, or Ghoul, as they call it in the show, Ghoul.
Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Vaisa, the show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Vaisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have.
Cool, we're back. We're talking about Ghoul on Netflix. All right, it's time to dive into the story.
Here's what I think.
Go. Spoilers. Okay, cool.
It was a short film.
Yeah.
From a student script. Like it started back there, and then it felt like it was a student script that has been carried on for like years, and finally,
but he was able to. So was like Inception. And
I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that I could feel
You could feel it.
the what's the word I'm looking for? Not. I don't want to be mean about this because I
don't want to be mean either.
I really liked it.
I
could feel the.
Just say
what's the word?
Just say you're being too polite.
No, I don't want to.
So okay, if you want to treat them like everybody else, you've got to treat them like everybody else.
I could feel just too many ideas, too little time, and then.
Do you think this would have been better as a series, as a longer series? No, right?
God, no.
Yeah,
because it was just one idea. It was one big central idea, and then it felt like okay, but we need to give some backstory. Okay. And then backstory for the sake of backstory was present, which was the national terrorism.
I enjoyed all of it.
Look, if you pitched the movie to me like this and told me this is a movie,
I know.
I'm still calling it a movie, right?
Yeah.
If you told me it's a story about a bunch of prisoners, one of them has something funny going on with them, and there's a new soldier who's the only one that's aware to the fact that something is up with this new guy.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We would have been in the exact same boat.
And reverse pitch. This is a story of a postmodern kind of India.
Yeah.
And then there's also a ghoul.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I
found that strange.
So look,
you know what I found most strange? Sorry. And this is the biggest spoiler of them all, right? I'm going to go with what the story is really about, which is that ultimately what happens is that the ghoul has been summoned by Nida's father to kind of make her feel this guilt and remorse. Now, my biggest flaw in conceptually, I actually am okay with everything else. Maybe it's just an execution thing, or maybe dialogue somewhere here and there is funny, unintentionally, etc. But what I felt was, this is the man who's, so to speak, really educated, believes in science, is a liberal guy. He's trying to teach values to kids. He's trying to hide his, information. Felt like this guy's character, like Stephen Fry's character in V for Vendetta, right? Okay, this guy who's kind of harboring all this information, doesn't want to reveal it to the government. But in the end, he uses an ancient mythical thing to call a ghoul to kind of exact vengeance. That seems so petty and so unlike the character that they've set up for Radhika Apte's character to be the opposite force of, Like, this girl is the antithesis to her father, and that's why they kind of are at ends. Okay, she believes in the government's vision and this, whole plan. He does not. He's like a man. It's like, no, everybody needs to have freedom, has to have rights. It felt like, that's the vibe. And then his plan is to call a ghoul? Yeah. What? Like, that was really, I was like, dude, come on, man. Like, that was the biggest letdown for me, I think. Everything else, honestly, I'm fine with.
See, the way that it ended, in that she is now continuing
the legacy. The ghoul.
It was just...
It felt obvious,
right? One, it felt obvious. Two, it felt like just, fodder for, like, the franchise.
Sure.
Three, it felt like the move that you would do when you're making a student film. Of just like, I don't have an ending for this because... I've fallen so deep into this well. I'm just like, I can't validate
classic Blumhouse move, right? So this thing has been produced by Blumhouse, which is like, one of the main horror studios of the world, like one of the big ones, premier guys. And, they've done Sinister, The Purge, they've done The Gift, they've done a lot of stuff, right? And I always felt, and you could feel, you could always feel it was predictable to me. And to us, I'd say, who watch a lot of these movies and know the little subversions, the classic scene. Okay, no, for example, you don't need to know it, okay? You need to be a filmmaker and see what you're going to do to subvert people's expectations, right? Yeah. Classic scene. Let's take a scene from this, the second episode. So the entire conceit of the show is that, or the movie, whatever, is that the ghoul can take on different forms, right? Like, that's the biggest thing, because that's how you create the mystery. I love that, okay? That as long as the ghoul bites you and takes a piece of your flesh, they can assume your form, right? And they reveal in a really scary way that, Saeed Ali, the main terrorist, his body has been found, like, elsewhere. And like, so who's in the cell? And then, he goes on taking the Faulad Singh's character. And then there's one point where she's escaping with one of the prisoners who has been said to be innocent. And, the mute, right? Ahmed. And she takes him up this, chimney, and the ghoul is following them. And suddenly she's like, it bit me. And then you're just like, and Ahmed has the same expression that we have, like, oh no, who's it gonna be? And you can't pull off his mask and say, if it weren't for you, Mel's Link.
Seriously, right? The whole third episode was Scooby-Doo.
It was Scooby-Doo, right?
The entire thing was Scooby-Doo by the third episode.
Whatever, I'm in. Okay, I'm in. Sure. And I'm just like there, and I'm just like, okay, cool. It's either this one, or it's this Nida, or it's this Nida, right? And there are two Nidas in two separate rooms.
Which one is the real?
Which one's the real Nida? And you think that's the one with Ahmed, because, but you know that that's what he want you to think. And then suddenly that's the ghoul, and the one in that room is not, and she, whatever. So
she willingly bites
exactly.
Her ear.
Whatever.
Like, wow, well done, Mike
Well
Tyson.
done, right, Nida? Anyway. But my thing was that you can feel the subversion happening. Like, you can feel like, oh, cool, this is what they want you to think. This is what's obviously not going to happen. And in the end, it's just a 50-50 shot, right?
It got heavy-handed by the end of it.
Yeah. Dude, I was telling Mally this. That was like, in my head, I was just like, you know what's going to happen in the last scene? She's going to be in prison, obviously, because she, has done this deed and whatever. In the end, and you know what? It's going to be a shot. And from her mouth is going to come a razor blade.
Oh, wow.
And
well done.
Dude, so it seemed, it was, for me, it was kind of, and I know it's completing a circle, and I don't mean to be this guy, but I felt that was quite obviously the ending. And for me, I don't know if this was targeted towards people like who watch horror films, like who are fans of the genre, or maybe to introduce India, because I saw this interview with him, and he's like, and Patrick has watched a lot of the Indian horror films. He's like, I've seen a lot of Ram Gopal Varma stuff, and I've seen that. And dude, give Ram Gopal Varma his due where it's due. This guy in the 90s made some really, really weird thrillers, weird, like almost very Sam Raimi. You can tell it's very Evil Dead-ish kind of stuff.
Sure.
It's got a very twisted kind of. There was this one movie called Road, which is pretty weird. There's one movie called Con, which I know everybody will know, which starred Urmila Matondkar, which we saw in the 90s. It was really creepy and really weird. Great twists. Everything is great. So he kind of references those, and he says, India's done horror films, and they have some good ones. But I really wanted to show that it was authentic and Indian, and we could make an Indian story. And I'm like, dude, but the Ram Gopal Varmas are very Indian and weird. Like, they're absolutely, like, they've got our own flavor going on for them. But this one felt like, I don't know if he's trying to introduce people to a new genre, in which case people won't get where this story is going to go. But if it's for horror fans, I felt like it might be a little bit of a letdown.
I think the bottom line for me is that the two disservices that were done was the fact that it was split up into three parts.
Right.
And this is definitely not a strong enough story where if you allow me, 6 hours or more in between chapters to dwell on it, I will eventually figure things out like you did. Like you figured out like the very ending shot.
Yeah.
If you'd seen it in one stretch as a movie, then you wouldn't have the time to sit and ponder on these things. And that would have been better for the filmmaker, because then it would have just kept that momentum going. Because there's a lot of great action. The gore was solid.
Yeah, the gore is solid.
It looked beautiful. It was shot really well.
Yeah.
I was really into it. Like I loved the general set design, and I loved the
setting is solid. The
vibe,
prison, it's cool.
The general vibes of the show was really cool.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. However, the story was kind of weak, and it was not helped by the fact that it was split up. So the pacing got completely demolished, and so the third act, which I understand why there was so much exposition in the third act, because it's the freaking third act. That's what happens in the third act. You have to let the audience catch up and figure out what's going on.
Right.
But when you have an isolated third act and it's only exposition, then that third episode seems really dumb, because it was like, wow, you're just feeding me everything in really, Scooby-Doo-esque ways of like, wait, one of us in the room is the one. Who's it gonna be? Let me shoot the light. Why? So that it can just be a little scarier for some reason.
I think she just wanted. So there's that one turn where so basically at the end of this, just to kind of conclude it, but Nida finally accepts that, okay, cool, this is my dad, he's done this, and I accept that I was wrong. Do you feel like okay, so the whole story is about Nida kind of subscribing to what the government believes, and this whole mission plan and everything like that, and do you feel like her turn back to a good person, or say like a conscious kind of citizen, saying that, wow, what we're doing here is wrong, did you feel like that was too easy, or it was like too quick, or
I wasn't invested in it.
You weren't invested in it?
Not.
Okay,
not. I wasn't invested in that side of her.
Well, is it because we didn't have any reason to believe why Nida?
It was trivialized for me, because it was just like a by the way. We started the story talking about this, right? Like I said, the first 15 minutes was touching on building her character and building the.
But it doesn't say why
environment
she
we're
is.
in.
Why she is a believer of what this, this government is.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what
I would have liked to know more. I'm not saying that was bad. I quite like that, actually.
Yeah.
But considering we did such a huge jump from the minute that she's inducted into the prison, I was like, oh, now it's going to get real, because clearly things are getting scarier now. But I was expecting there to be like a lot more jumps in time of like, let me know more about her backstory, or know more about the political environment, know more about maybe the other officers' history, like her boss. Dude,
that guy was awesome.
He was really good.
Dakuna.
Sunil.
Sunil Dakuna.
His whole thing with his wife and kid and all that, like that would have been cool to know more about.
Whose wife and kid?
His wife. He beat his wife. Did you miss
that?
Oh,
right. It was in passing, man. But
it was in passing, exactly. There were a lot of things. There were a lot of things that the actors did well. They just like touched on a couple little things, like especially the two guards who initially interrogated him.
And
they killed the mute's wife and kid.
And his kid.
I was like, that was sad.
That was sad.
That was really sad. But again, it was trivialized, because it was like, oh, BT Dubs, you did a horrible thing.
But this is not what the story is about.
That's where your guilt lies. Sunil, your guilt is because you beat your wife. The other woman officer, your guilt is because you're a
lot of table setting right through.
Exactly. So it's like, you have good stuff you're playing with, but you're just juggling way too many balls.
Yeah.
And so Another thing is, just to get back to the Netflix decision of splitting it up, I think the other thing of putting it as a horror is wrong. I feel like, you know how you said...
But if you're
I'm
going
to harken back to what you said about Guardians 1.
Right.
You said because it was listed as a comedy,
Yeah.
you went in with your arms crossed going, oh, really? That's what I did with this.
Make me laugh.
Exactly. That's what I did with this. I was like, all right, bring it.
Yeah.
I don't like horror.
No,
but,
I agree.
But, you know, when I sit down for a horror film, I expect to be scared shitless. And I wasn't. And this wasn't a... It was a much better...
drama, thriller.
It was a better thriller with a couple of scares.
Yeah.
If you didn't tell me about the scares, they would have landed a lot better. If you didn't tell me it was going to be scary.
You can't.
But I get that. I understand. You can't have a scary thing without letting people know.
Also, you can't call the show Ghoul.
Yeah.
And have blood and your entire motifs. Did you see the marketing for this whole thing?
No.
Like it was on all these billboards, like for Sacred Games.
Those I saw, yeah.
Yeah, and it had the little, the little logo.
That's all I knew.
So it felt like, we're going to a dark space, and
But also the name. The name Ghoul doesn't really instill much
I felt
fear.
like the term hasn't been used in popular fiction
in a while.
In a while,
well,
maybe.
It's cool.
There is a 2015 movie called Ghoul, but I was not kind of aware of it until I just did some research for this.
I'm not saying it's a badly named piece. I think it's perfectly it fits.
Yeah.
But it's not like it didn't. When I saw a giant billboard that said Ghoul, I didn't go like, ooh.
Yeah, it's a lot like
I went,
Luke Cage in the sense that in Luke Cage both season 1 and 2, they have a lot of messages they want to talk about. They want to talk about blaxploitation. They want to talk about black excellence. They want to talk about ICE. They want to talk about immigration. There's so many things that they want to talk about.
To do that.
Yeah. And they kind of landed somewhere. Here, this one talked about you want to talk about religion. You want to talk about India. I want to say this, but it was also scary. So I felt like that's what. Okay, cool. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come back and we're gonna conclude this episode. We're gonna only talk about the things that we liked about the show, Jishnu. That's what we always do. All right? Cool.
Fine.
You know what it's been? Like every week has been an awesome week on IVM. This week on IVM, we got the 300th episode of Cyrus Says. To mark this milestone, Cyrus has an MTV VJ reunion with Malaika and Nikhil Chinappa. Listen in for tons of laughter and nostalgia. You really, really don't want to miss this. 300 episodes! On the Scene and the Unseen, Amit Verma is joined by a farmer leader, Gunwant Patil, to discuss India's agricultural crisis and the state of farmers. On Noyer Kanun, lawyer and host Amber Rana helps us to understand the complexities related to the laws and rights regarding cruelty. Last week on the Pragati podcast, Pawan and guest host Shambhavi Nayak were joined by renowned scientist Dr. Kumarasamy Thangaraj to discuss the great genetic diversity of India. On the Kinetic Living podcast this week, Coach Urmi talks to stand-up comic and the host of Keeping It Queer, Naveen Narona, about his busy schedule and the struggle to create a fitness regime for himself. And as always, if you're not following us on social media, please make sure that you do. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We do a lot of really interesting stuff over there. Also, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. We have this thing called IVM CCTV over there where we give you guys a glimpse into the studio. And with that, let's continue with your show.
Right, we're back. We're talking about Ghoul on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, we still recommend it. I know we've said whatever we have said. If you've seen it, I guess that's why you're here listening to this part of the episode. but we'd really love to know what you think.
I do recommend.
So let's talk about what we liked about this show, this movie. Sure.
Like I said, it looks really good.
Okay, one second. Was it a low budget kind of show, or was it supposed to look like this grimy kind of vibe, right? Like
I didn't get any low budget vibes out of it.
Did you not?
No.
I felt like I thought
we were talking about the good things here.
No, I'm not saying low budget is a bad thing. I think creative constraints are the things that make you shine, man.
Totally.
Like so, because this 100% did not have the same budget as Sacred Games. Obviously, that's a much longer show. It had big actors and everything in this, right? But this felt like they made use of what they had, and that's why it had like a one setting kind of place.
Yeah,
that's why I felt it was
everything.
Good.
Like I keep saying, everything within that one setting.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
it was just the backstory that got in the way of things.
Yeah, I
really liked how it looked in the one setting. Yeah, I even liked how it looked outside that one setting. I thought it was shot really well. It was acted.
Dude, the acting
really
is probably the best thing about the show.
A
couple of people, obviously, Dekuna was excellent. I can't remember his name. His name is Manav.
Manav Kaul?
Yeah. Great actor. The other, the main kind of mother superior role in this, Major Das. She was dope, man. Yeah. She was really good. She had this kind of like really street vibe about her, even though she's like a soldier.
Yeah.
But like, she's badass.
I kind of got a ghetto Whoopi Goldberg vibe.
Yeah. Get a
I got the Whoopi Goldberg sass, but with like
lots of sass,
but with like a pistol whip.
Yeah, it was good.
Like backhanding you.
It was cool, because one arc kind of I really liked about the show that they kind of nailed was this kind of mutiny kind of thing happening within the set of soldiers, right? That they nailed.
What was his name? Lamba.
Lamba, right.
He was really cool. I especially enjoyed the very beginning. I think first episode, just as the briefing happens, right when Radhakapte gets inducted into the thingy, and they're all standing in line.
Yeah.
And
the welcome party.
And then the first time that Das says something that questions Dekona's authority, and Lamba's like, now's not the time, yo.
Yeah.
I was like,
I like that.
This has nothing to do with the scary bits, but I love this little
tension.
The familial strifes that we're
there's that one
really cool.
great scene also between Major Das and Dekuna, and then the office, and she's just like, they have this little riff off, and then at the end she's just like, starting a little early today. I was like, yes, it's on now.
Let's do it.
And why I like that. I mean, it would have been great either way, but why I liked it is because it completes the arc perfectly. That, right at the end, there's this little Mexican standoff thing happening between Dekuna, Nida, and, Major Das. And she kind of takes over the entire unit. And I thought that was really well done. In fact,
when Lamba got shot, I was like, oh no.
No. Dude, you knew. They all have, it's a horror slasher kind of thing. They all have to die.
Yeah.
But, so one thing I really liked, so obviously I love that. I was far more invested in that kind of arc a lot more than, say, the Ghoul. And the Ghoul part was kind of servicing all of it to make the story kind of go along.
Yeah.
But that was cool. I really like the way it kind of concludes, in the sense that, yes, I know where it was going to go. There's this little, the right at the end. They've kind of set up and payoff is really good, right? Where they say, we don't let people know what time of day it is, what's the weather like, what the music is like. So that kind of, that whole thing that's going on
I
there.
just have to interject.
Go.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
But when they said, when they get the guy, when they get Ali, and they're like, all right, put the headphones on him, and they start blasting some random.
There's like some metal. That's Guantanamo. That's Gitmo.
Yes, totally. No, it makes sense, but it just is something it was a little heavy-handed again. It was just something about that made me chuckle.
But that's what they do apparently to prisoners. So I'm not like,
I know
it just felt like really good,
like
metal music also. I don't know if you were saying
I got taken out for a second.
Yeah.
Maybe I got distracted.
I got taken out in multiple parts because of some really funny dialogue, unintentionally funny dialogue. Whatever. It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal. But it wasn't a deal breaker.
Just to conclude, I thought that payoff was really good, where they kind of, she says, we don't know what's going on, and then she scratches away at this thing, and she finds out that, it's daytime, and she, the whole, the light comes in, she busts out of that window, and, it's all timed perfectly because she set off that alarm. There's these new services coming in.
Totally.
So she comes out, and that this guy is the Ghoul, because there's no way he could have survived this bomb, that he kind of pulls off to try and kill the Ghoul. And it's this guy. And she's kind of faced with this one decision. Yeah. It's a great ending kind of moment. It felt very Walking Dead almost. That these guys are like, put on the weapon, you can't do this. And she's like, gotta do it, bro. And boom. I love that. Shotgun to the head.
I think if I had to sum it up into anything, my biggest takeaway would be to say that the character work was really nice. The acting was solid.
Yeah.
The overall arc between the characters and how they all worked together was really good. Especially with that.
Yeah.
The Ghoul and the political stuff and the religious thingy and all that was a bit much odd. It was just it didn't need to be there.
So I'm actually looking forward to whatever this guy does next, because he's a good writer. There's definitely a lot of good stuff in there, but I think he'll nail it something. He'll nail it.
I think just keep it simple.
Yeah,
keep it simple. Or if you're gonna get big, then allow yourself breathing room to
if you take a story like V for Vendetta, right? It's a pretty there's a lot of shit going on in there, right?
Yeah,
and it's
but that's one of them. It's a
perfect.
It's a feat. V for Vendetta is not. You don't see that every day.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Don't use that as a benchmark.
Yeah.
Use that as a goal.
Yeah,
but that's not a
fair enough.
Standard operating.
Cool. Unit. What we're saying is, Ghoul, we enjoyed you. Check it out if you guys haven't. I don't know how you reached this part of the episode if you haven't, but let us know what you thought about the series, the movie, whatever you want to call it. What did you think? Did you find any references to anything else? I think there was a lot of cool references.
Yeah,
I felt to
Do you want a sequel?
Do I want a sequel? No, I want. I think it ends like how horror films should end, which is we're all.
I mean, that's what happens at the end of every Saw movie as well.
Yeah, but I stopped watching after the first
so.
one. Yeah, so I stopped
You're a better
watching.
man than me.
Yeah, exactly. So let us know what you want. Do you want a sequel? Do you not? And it does say season 1 on that, so I'm not sure. Let's see.
Does it?
I mean, it does. It does say season 1. Well, that doesn't necessarily, mean that there's going to be. But let us know what you thought. Write to us. Contact geekfruit@gmail.com. You can find us on all social media at geekfruithq on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Yeah, cool. See you later, you ghouls.
Yeah. It's IVM here. Let's go. We the IVM kids on the block over here. Just to talk, taking a break from producing all day. Coming on this podcast because we got stuff to say. IVM Daily is the name of the show. Monday to Friday, we ready to go. Talking about stuff in our head. We might even talk about our favorite bread. Signing out, it's IVM here, the podcast network that's in your ear.
Catch IVM Daily, Monday to Friday on the IVM Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Shunyawan, 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 Shunyawan.
$1 billion acquisition. Another copycat startup got formed.
No, the tech world in India is surely moving double the speed of this voiceover.
Tune in to Shunya One every Tuesday to catch us talking to the smartest people we know on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.